Welcome back to London's Dark Archives. Before we proceed with this video, a quick warning. This video contains discussions of violent crimes, including murder, violence and attempted murder. It includes details about attacks on women, victim impact and the actions of a convicted serial killer. Some viewers may find the content distressing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some crimes stick with you. Some make headlines, then fade from memory, but others, they linger. I remember exactly where I was when Millie Dowler went missing. I was working in Kingston at the time, and the news of her disappearance was everywhere. The desperate search, the hope that she might come home. Then a few years later, when Amelie Delagrange was murdered, I was living not far from Twickenham Green. These ain't just stories in the newspaper, they happen in places I knew, in streets I walked. At the time we didn't know these crimes were linked, but the man responsible was walking among us, hiding in plain sight. His name, Levi Bellfield. Bellfield was born Levi Rabatz on the 17th of May 1968 in Isleworth, London. His childhood weren't easy. His father died of leukemia when he was just 10, leaving his mother to raise him and his 4 siblings alone on a council estate on the outskirts of south-west London. School didn't offer much stability either. He bounced through multiple schools, Forge Lane Junior, Rectory Secondary and later Felton Comprehensive. But even from a young age there were warning signs that Levi Bellfield was no ordinary troubled child. His first criminal conviction came in 1981 when he was still just a kid, burglary. By the time he reached adulthood his crimes had escalated. He was convicted of assaulting a police officer in 1990, theft, driving offences, one after another, until by 2002 Bellfield had racked up 9 convictions and had already spent close to a year behind bars. But these were just the crimes he'd been caught for. What no one knew was Bellfield's real crimes were far, far worse and far more sinister. On the afternoon of 21st of March 2002, 13-year-old Amanda Millie Dowler finished her school day at Eastside School in Weybridge, Surrey. Like so many children her age, she had no reason to believe that day would be different to any other. She walked with a friend to Weybridge railway station, took the train to Walton-on-Thames and stopped at a cafe. At 3:47 p.m. she called her father, letting him know she'd be home in half an hour. At 4:05 p.m. she left the cafe and started walking the short walk home alone. It was a journey she'd made before, but this time she never made it back. The last confirmed sighting of Millie was at 4:08 p.m. She was spotted by a friend of her sister waiting at a bus stop along Station Avenue. And then she was gone. CCTV footage along the route captured no sign of her, but one camera did capture something else. A red Daewoo Nexia, later linked to Levi Bellfield. It was his girlfriend's car, and Bellfield would later admit to driving it that day. Millie's disappearance sparked a nationwide search. Police scoured fields, rivers and streets, helicopters were deployed, and a dedicated task force was assembled, including officers who'd worked on the high-profile Sarah Payne case. The Dowler family made heartfelt appeals, appearing on BBC Crime Watch in the hopes that someone, anyone, had seen something. As the weeks passed, hope began to fade. Investigators initially theorised that Millie had entered the car or home willingly, possibly knowing her abductor, but there were no clear answers. The case took a darker turn on the 18th of September 2002 when human remains were discovered by mushroom pickers in Yateley Heath Woods, Hampshire, 25 miles from where she was last seen. It was Millie, but by then 6 months had passed. Her body was so badly decomposed that the cause of death could not be determined. None of her belongings, her purse, rucksack or mobile phone was ever found. For years the case remained unsolved. Police conducted mass interviews, set up roadblocks and even pursued false leads, including treating Millie's father as a suspect, something they would later apologise for. The investigation became plagued by hoaxes, from sick individuals making prank calls to a man sending chilling letters to Millie's sister, falsely claiming to be the killer. The public watched on in horror as the case became more twisted, yet no arrest was made. It would be nearly a decade before the truth about what happened to Millie Dowler finally came to light, and by then, Bellfield had already left a devastating trail of destruction behind him. On the night of the 4th of February 2003, 19-year-old Marsha McDonnell spent the evening doing something countless teenagers had done, going to the cinema with friends. She was a bright, vibrant young woman, taking a gap year before heading to university, working in a gift shop in Kingston while planning her future. But in an act of senseless violence, that future was brutally stolen from her. After leaving the cinema, Marsha boarded the 111 bus home, getting off at Percy Road in Hampton just before midnight. She was just a short walk away from the house she shared with her parents, Phil and Ute, her two sisters and a younger brother. But as she walked, she was ambushed. A savage blow to the back of the head with a blunt instrument sent her crashing to the pavement. The attack was swift, brutal, and utterly without mercy. There was no robbery, just an execution-style attack that left Marsha fighting for her life. A passerby found her unconscious and bleeding on the pavement and called emergency services. She was rushed to hospital with severe head injuries, but despite doctors' best efforts, she succumbed to her wounds 2 days later. Her family's world shattered in an instant. The senselessness of Marsha's murder shook the community. Who could have carried out such a seemingly motiveless attack? Police launched an extensive investigation, but with no obvious suspect, the case was difficult to crack. However, in the days following the murder, one crucial clue emerged. Just 6 days after the attack, Levi Bellfield sold his Vauxhall Corsa for a mere £1,500, despite having paid £6,000 for it just 5 months earlier. This suspicious behaviour would later play a part in linking him to the crime. In court, Marsha was described as an attractive blonde, a seemingly insignificant detail, yet one that would later become chillingly relevant when investigators realised Bellfield's pattern of targeting young blonde women. Her sister Natalie remembered her as a compassionate and free-spirited soul, saying, "She always thought of other people, but Bellfield thought only of himself and his twisted desires, snuffing out a promising life for no reason other than his own gratification." Marsha's murder was just the beginning, but at the time, no one knew that the man responsible was already hunting for his next victim. On the evening of the 28th of May 2004, 18-year-old Kate Sheedy was celebrating a milestone, the end of her time at Gumley House School in Isleworth. She spent the evening saying goodbye to friends, excited about what the future held. But as she walked home that night, her life changed forever. Kate, the head girl of her school, had a bright future ahead of her. But when she noticed a suspicious white people carrier with blacked out windows idling nearby, she became uneasy. Instinctively, she crossed the road to avoid it, but moments later, the driver deliberately accelerated towards her, running her down in an horrific and calculated attack. The car then reversed over her, leaving her broken and bleeding in the street. Despite suffering devastating injuries, Kate survived. She was rushed to hospital where she spent weeks recovering from internal bleeding, multiple broken bones and severe trauma. Her recovery was slow and painful, and she was forced to delay her university plans by a year. She missed her A-level exams, though she was later awarded her predicted grades, allowing her to study history and drama at the University of York. Kate's survival was a testament to her strength, but the scars, both physical and emotional, would never fully fade. In a statement, she later said, "On the day I was attacked, I was celebrating about moving on to a new, exciting time of my life. All that hope and excitement was taken from me, and I thought my life had changed forever." The attack left Kate with lasting trauma, but she refused to let it define her. Her account of the vehicle, a white people carrier with a broken wing mirror, would prove crucial in linking Bellfield to the crime. Through sheer resilience, Kate became not just a survivor, but a key witness in bringing a serial predator to justice. Amélie Delagrange was a 22-year-old French student with a deep love for the English language. She had excelled academically, passing her baccalaureate exams with ease, and had previously spent 6 weeks in Manchester as part of a language course. She had enjoyed her time in the UK so much she decided to return, this time settling in Twickenham. She had been living there for just 3 months, but on the evening of 19th of August 2004, her promising life was cut tragically short. Amélie was found on Twickenham Green with severe head injuries, having been bludgeoned with a blunt instrument. She was rushed to hospital, but the injuries were too severe and she died later that night. In the days that followed, police quickly linked her murder to that of Marsha McDonnell, recognising the similarities in the attacks. Like Marsha, Amelie had been targeted by walking home alone at night, and both had suffered fatal blows to the head. Her devastated parents, Jean-Francois and Dominique Delagrange, travelled from France to attend the trial seeking justice for their daughter. Her mother described Amelie as a sensible and well-behaved young woman who never caused trouble, while her boyfriend, Oliver, recalled belief that she was living in a safe area. But the area was anything but safe while Levi Bellfield prowled its streets, preying on young women in unprovoked and brutal attacks. Amelie, like Marsha before her, had no way of knowing she was being stalked by a ruthless predator. Levi Bellfield was a predator who prowled the streets in search of his victims. Those who knew him described the man with a massive ego and a dangerous temper and a deep-seated hatred for rejection. Detectives tracked down a number of Bellfield's ex-girlfriends, who all reported a chillingly similar experience. He was lovely at first, charming, then completely controlling and evil. They all said the same, recalled Detective Sergeant Joe Brunt. At the time of attacks, Bellfield ran a wheel clamping business in and around West Drayton where he lived. His arrogance knew no bounds and he believed he was untouchable. Police surveillance caught Bellfield cruising the streets in his van, approaching young women at bus stops. His hunting ground was familiar places he knew intimately. CCTV footage from the night of Amelie Delagrange's murder showed him walking towards Twickenham Green after missing her bus at a stop. He suspected she may have encountered Bellfield just before her attack. Bellfield's violent pattern was driven by an uncontrollable rage at perceived slights, as criminal profiler Laura Richards observed. Quote, Bellfield has a massive ego to feed. He thinks he's God's gift to everyone. He drives around in his car, feels a bit whatever, and sees some young blonde girl. Young blonde girl says go away, and he thinks, you dare to turn down Levi Bellfield, you're worth nothing. And then she gets a whack over the head. It's shown in the case of Kate Sheedy. She was smart enough to think she didn't like the look of his car and crosses the road, and he thinks, you're so clever, and whoosh, he runs her over. The net closed in on Bellfield on the 22nd of November 2004 when he was arrested for the murder of Amelie Delagrange. Over the following months, the investigation uncovered more of his crimes. He was charged with multiple counts of assault of all kinds and eventually the murders of Marsha McDonnell and Amelie Delagrange, as well as the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. Bellfield had evaded justice for years, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. His arrogance finally caught up with him, and as the trial would soon reveal, his reign of terror was far more extensive than anyone had initially realised. On the 25th of February 2008, Levi Bellfield was found guilty of the murders of Marsha McDonnell and Amelie Delagrange, as well as the attempted murder of Kate Sheedy. The following day he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order, meaning he would never be released. Bellfield refused to attend court for his sentence, claiming unfair press coverage following his conviction. On the 30th of March 2010, Bellfield was charged with the abduction and murder of Millie Dowler, a crime that predated his known attacks. His second trial began on the Old Bailey the 10th of May 2011, and on the 23rd of June the jury found him guilty. The following day he received another whole life order. A separate charge of the attempted abduction of an 11-year-old girl was dropped due to prejudicial media coverage. On the 27th of January 2016, Surrey police announced that Bellfield had admitted to abducting and murdering Dowler after being questioned about a possible accomplice. However, Bellfield later denied making a confession, though police stood by their original statement. Since then, Bellfield has been linked to many cases, although he has not faced any further charges related to them. In May 2022, the Ministry of Justice confirmed that Bellfield had become engaged while in prison. His fiancée was a woman who had initially begun writing to him 2 years earlier before becoming a regular visitor. The idea that one of Britain's most sadistic killers could find love behind bars disgusted the public, yet Bellfield, who has always revelled in attention, seemed to delight in the controversy. He required permission from the governor of HM Prison Franklin to marry. In June 2023, it was announced that Bellfield had converted to Islam and taken the name Yusuf Rahim. Many viewed this as yet another manipulative ploy from a man who had spent his life deceiving and hurting others. Whether a genuine religious transformation or just another act of self-serving deceit it changes nothing. He remains a reviled and unrepentant monster rotting away in his cell. As of today, Yusuf Rahim, née Bellfield, continues to serve his whole life sentences, where he will die behind bars. This case is fairly recent, and the effects are still deeply felt by the communities in the areas this monster haunted, the families of his victims, and of course the survivors. Whether you call him Rahim or Bellfield, he don't deserve to be remembered, but the tragic victims do. Their names and their stories should live on, not as footnotes in the legacy of a cowardly killer, but as individuals whose lives were unfairly taken or forever altered by a predator who should never have been free to walk the streets. The justice system ensured he will never harm again, but the scars he left behind will never fully heal.